Hey everyone, Lou here. You know, I loved the game Off when I was younger. It was my favorite, and I mean favorite RPG Maker game to play. Probably because there used to be like this emulator for the RPG Maker games on tablets and phones, where Off was one of the few games that emulators like that could run without a problem, so I played it like all the time. It's also one of the few famous RPG Maker games that hasn't been ported to Steam yet. That is, until this year when, out of nowhere, Off was announced to receive a Steam port by Fangamer. For those who don't know, Off is a game created by French artist Mortis Ghost and French musician Alias Conrad Coldwood in May 2008. Off was originally French only until an English translation was made in 2011 by Reconstructed Dragon. I say who because some people think it was VG Person just because VG Person was a big translator for all RPG Maker games, but no, that's not the case. From there, Off became a really beloved game series and was played by some of the biggest Let's Play channels of that time, like Markiplier, Manly Badass Hero, and I think that Critical guy, he was this guy everybody wanted to voice Gary if Ebe had voice acting, like way back in the day because of his Let's Play. However, Off's popularity steadily fell off. It's not because it's a bad game, it's a fantastic game and very French in its unique and vague approach to deep themes, but with games like Mad Father, The Witch's House, Ebe, and more, then, well, it's kind of hard to compete in a big pool of RPG Maker games. It was also the only one not to receive a Steam port out of all the major RPG Maker games. I mean, Dreaming Mary too, but that game died a long time ago and the creator disappeared, so anyway. In came Fangamer, who is in charge of merch for largely independent games like Undertale, Yuminiki, Ebe, Mouthwashing, Omori, and Hollow Knight. I mean, they have some big stuff too, like Metal Gear Solid, Persona, and Silent Hill, but they largely cater towards the indie scene. This is pretty interesting to me because Fangamer never touches development, so this is their first time dipping their toes in. I assume because a large majority of the people who work closely with Fangamer were all inspired by Off one way or another. Like Toby Fox, who largely does a majority of the new music in the game. Because unfortunately, Alias Conrad Coldwood did not return for his music in the remake. This is due to the fact that if he said yes, Off's original music would be put through the copyright system and would flag or take down any projects featuring Off's soundtrack that Alias gave permission to use in remixes, fan songs, animations with Off's soundtrack, and more. I get it, you know, like he basically wanted the exact opposite of what Nintendo does all the damn time, but Pepper Steak and Meaning of His Tears, like, dude, those songs slap so hard. I will say that the game is made in Unity, so, you know, modding is technically easier, so you could mod the OG music back in the game if you knew what you were doing. Anyway, the remake released on August 15th to overwhelming positive reviews, but a lot of negative reviews wouldn't stop talking about the music situation. I get it, but I'll talk about my thoughts on the new music in a second. But for now, let's see if this remake knocks it out of the park, or if it's a strike. You play as you, who is controlling the Batter, a unknown being who claims he must cleanse the world of specters, or ghosts, so you control him and help him do his mission. Going from each zone to purify ghosts and take down the overbearing and cruel bosses of the area. The judge is also a cat who gives you a tutorial about the game's combat, and then you cross paths with him now and then, and he speaks very poetically. As you progress through the game, you learn about this world and how people breathe smoke, walk on metal, eat raw meat, and write letters with plastic? Something about plastic, I can't wrap my head around it. People are also highly addicted to sugar too, but that's kind of a secret. It's kind of a dystopian, if only because everyone working all look the same, sound like they're choking, and they're all oppressed by these big bosses of the world. But are you really helping this world? After you defeat the boss of each zone, which the batter claims is an evil who must be purged from this world, you can go back and see that all the vibrant colors from the world were sucked out and everyone's gone. Is it really purging the world of evil if everyone's gone? The game does imply themes of religion, oppression, morality, and corruption, and it is very well done in its in-your-face metaphors and the vague ones, but it also makes it really, really hard to understand the game's story events because so much of it feels so vague. This isn't a bad thing. Its vagueness has its advantages because people can claim whatever they want out of the story that way. So as you make your way smacking through everything and killing these bosses, you then meet the queen. If you haven't picked up on the books and notes throughout the game, a child named Hugo created this world, including the batter and the queen, whom he envisioned as a motherly and fatherly role to him. Basically, this small child hugging a ham and coughing like a sickly Victorian child is a god to these characters. The queen is basically angry at the batter for abandoning their creator and child, along with killing the bosses who were all Hugo's friends prior to falling to madness and anger. We don't know what happened or why, but the batter never seemed to bond with Hugo or meet the others. He believed himself to be the savior crusader meant to purge this world from evil, though this is a little confusing because Mortis Ghost said the batter only came to existence when we loaded up the game, but notes in Hugo's room completely contradict this. But anyway. After killing the queen, the batter then kills Hugo. This and the queen's fights were genuinely the saddest to me, but Hugo's just hammers in the morality theme here. Like, yeah, you want to save the world, but is beating the shit out of a sickly child with a baseball bat really saving the world, or are you just an evil son of a bitch? After killing the sickly Victorian child, the batter then comes up to a switch. You then meet the judge again and presented two options that give you two endings. If you side with the judge, you then fight the batter. His form takes on a completely different shape because the batter's form is actually based on who is looking at him, and the judge views him as an enemy as well as the player, so that's what he looks like. Beating the batter just leaves the judge in an empty void now, just kind of left to just sit there, I guess. I don't have footage of this because that ending was always impossible for me to get in the original, and the remake is no exception. The second ending is to fight the judge, where we kill him and flip the switch off, thus killing the entire world. The game also makes it very clear that despite characters falling to madness or hatred, the world isn't black and white. It was colorful for a reason, because the world isn't black and white in its answers but shades of gray. A good example is if you look at the Elsin, the humanoid beings that are all cloned from some scientist who died long before the game's events. Like, yeah, a lot of them are really timid and going insane from the industries of this world, but then a lot of them are just kind of vibing. Which, yes, some get possessed by ghosts and sugar makes them rabid, but that's a whole other thing. I too have crash outs when I have too much chocolate in one day. Then there's Zachary, who's just trying to run a business, dude. Man's just hustling out here. Speaking of ghosts, for those curious, Mortis Ghost answered in a live stream a few years ago that ghosts occur because souls are meant to be reborn in this world in the future, but because the batter is destroying the future, then the souls can't be reborn in a future, so they're stuck. Which again, super interesting implications. There also seems to be some sort of apocalyptic event that occurred prior that left Hugo, the original Elsin, and Zachary all alone as the only surviving humans, where Hugo was able to create the queen and the batter, the world itself, and the queen created everybody else. From there, I guess, the queen became corrupted in trying to make a living, breathing world for Hugo that she forgot to care for him. Thus, I guess, plunged the world into what the batter thinks is evil, because he believes he and the queen should have existed for Hugo and Hugo only. Maybe the batter learned about whatever apocalyptic event happened, and believes all life is evil? I don't know, man. I should talk about the pretty lame theory for off, though, solely because it's a popular one. Basically, Hugo is a terminally ill child, and the batter is some kind of being created in his head to turn off his life support machine, so he'll finally die. I don't know, it's giving It's All a Dream theory, which I consider to be pretty fucking lame for any series. Overall, though, the story is really good and has a lot of depth to it. I mean, if you're looking for some damn good video essay bait, Off is definitely the game to do it with. I gotta say, when I first moved around in the game, I was a little bit surprised by how slippery the controls felt. I got the hang of it in the end, but a lot of the time it felt like I was walking on some sort of ice level. This was fine though, like I said, I did get the hang of it, but it did get a little frustrating during a puzzle in the game that was this parody of Minesweep or whatever that bomb detection game is, where I kept slipping up and having to do the puzzle all over again. Worse still is that shift was never used in the game up until this point, so when the batter says to press shift to avoid the bombs by looking at the map, I was left super confused because the graphic was an up arrow. I get that shift has an up arrow next to it, but I've never seen the up arrow used for shift before, so I was left pressing every damn key trying to figure out how to pull up the damn map to avoid doing the puzzle all over again. Eventually I plugged in my controller, where I gotta say the controls for the game are a lot easier with a controller. Earlier in the video I mentioned playing Off on my earliest tablet and phone in high school, and I think that echoes today because I think Off is honestly a really great game to play on the go. Just a shame Steam Deck seems to be the only mobile choice for now, but I'll get there in a second. I did like all the little graphical and artistic upgrades though. I like that when the batter runs around there's this little cloud of dust, like he's just booking it, which is really funny to picture in my head. When you buy from Zachary, there's a graphical menu now instead of the typical RPG menu like early Final Fantasy titles or even Omori. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Mortis Ghost himself did all the new artwork. The only one I'm not sure about, and yeah, I could have read the credits, but this new background art that's used to fill in the black space that the game has when you're in full screen mode, I'm not sure who does the artwork for that. Also, for some reason, I couldn't find the background for Zone 3, so that was weird. I don't know where I could have missed it. I'm pretty sure it is his artwork, though. His artwork has gotten a lot rounder and cleaner, so I could be wrong. I think it might be done by whoever did the new artwork for the judge, though. I thought the NPC audio was different for a second because it's been so long since I last played, but actually they were cleaned up for the game, so they sound different, but it's the same NPC audio from the original game. It's just less crunchy because it's not in RPG Maker 2000 anymore. Speaking of audio, we do gotta talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, the experience of playing Off's remake is very different without the original soundtrack. It's just a shame, man, because songs like Pepper Steak and Meaning of His Tears just hit so hard. And really bring in this energy of the scene very well. I mean, the new songs are fine. Toby Fox stated that he was a little uncomfortable composing new music for Off because the original is just so iconic, and I do think he did a good job trying to replicate the magic. I mean, it's not the same, but I appreciate the attempt, and I do really like Toby's music. So the game's music leans more into the 1920s sound by frequently sampling old Depression-era music, but it's spliced with original compositions, so I can't for the life of me tell what songs they're sampling. The batter is meant to resemble an old baseball player from the 1920s to the 1940s. Think the old uniforms you see on baseball cards in movies or whatever. I don't know, do people still buy that gun with the baseball cards in it? Along with largely the technology itself being early 20th century vibes, except the computers from Hugo's room largely breaks the mold. I figure it's because he created the batter, the queen in the room, so I figure that was his creation and the queen made everything else to resemble the early 20th century. This is also seen in the advertisements and the lore explanation of the quote elements, using actual diagrams from what I believe is late 1800s to early 1900s equipment and factories. It also kind of ties back into the themes, but you know, I'm sure you kind of figured it out, you know? So I don't mind going full vintage with the soundtrack, but man, I miss it. The weakest area musically is definitely the final area. The room just didn't have that memorable music box audio, or any audio in some areas. Well, the boss fight with the queen, the judge, and just way more are just really weak in some areas, man. It didn't bring what you're supposed to feel in that moment or the sadness of the scene. Like, they're just really meh. It doesn't necessarily ruin the game experience if you've played off before, but if you're new, then yeah, it kind of does mess things up. Another negative thing too, and this carries from the original, is that I don't really like a lot of the puzzles. A lot of them are just bullshit mazes that feel like confusing on purpose to pad out time and that stupid fucking balloon popping game. To make it easier for you guys, here's some advice I picked up from a game advice forum over 10 years ago. When the Elson pops the balloon, try to make sure 4 are always popped. If he pops 1, you pop 3. If he pops 2, you pop 2. Hopefully that helps because it did for me, but yeah, I was legit sitting there a good 10 minutes on that stupid balloon puzzle and felt like I was going crazy. I hated it in the original, and I hated it here. Though I don't remember having this much trouble before. Maybe I just had really good luck back then, or maybe I actually figured out the strategy on my own back then. The combat works similarly to Final Fantasy XIII in having a loading bar for your turn now, and so presumably you'd have skills that would increase the speed of this bar so you hit your opponents faster because your turn is loading faster. Basically, it's a better visual guide for speed, I guess. Then sometimes a yellow lightning bolt thingy will be on the loading bar instead, and this is basically a crit in anything you do. If you heal, it's massive heals. If you dodge, then you dodge dumpy damage, or you do dumpy damage. The enemies do this too, and I think it's a better indicator on when to dodge, because that's always been my problem with RPGs. Like, I'm really, really bad at dodging. Some have complained this ruins the RPG mechanic, but I don't think so. I think it just makes it stand out a little more and gives you artificial suspense as you wait for your bar to load, rather than just waiting for your turn. Though I will say that Off, to me at least, has been a pretty easy RPG in my book. I say this as someone who is naturally very bad at RPGs. Like, it took me a year to beat Pokemon Black. I feel like the NPCs end up doing way more damage than the bosses do, by the way. Either that, or it's because I grinded on these NPCs so I could level up the Batter and his Spirit Ring thingies, which the Batter, Spirit Ring thingies are also very balanced RPG teams. One does status effects to the enemy, one cures, while the other gives status effects to the team. They all do damage, but not as much as the Batter, who is going to be your main DPS, and who I recommend prioritizing at all times. However, because the game is relatively easy, I finished in about 6 hours. However, this was me doing the original playthrough of Off. The game added a ton of new secret bosses. In the original, after you defeat an area, there's nothing left but these weird baby things to fight. You could grind, I guess. Here we got 7 brand new secret bosses, which is really awesome. I wasn't able to find them at all in my recordings, but I'll definitely fight them off screen after this video. From what I can tell though, all these secret bosses are definitely the difficulty spike you're looking for, so I highly recommend fighting the bosses. Not sure how much it'll pad out time, but I really recommend it. The original only had one secret boss, being the character Sugar back in Zone 0 or somewhere around there, so this is really cool to me. Overall, the gameplay is pretty easy, but the added secret bosses just helped with the difficulty, but the lack of the game's original soundtrack does affect some important moments. I still appreciate the attempt though. Also, the mazes suck ass. I love Off a lot. I think it is just such a creative game and has so much heart put into it, and is just, you could tell Mortis Ghost really loved Off and what he was able to make with it. That said, I had a lot of fun playing the remake. It was really nice and really fun to play through, though I can't lie that some of the experiences I had when playing the original Off were muddied a bit by the soundtrack being completely replaced and not having the greatest songs play during moments that should have been really important in the game. but I still do highly recommend Off. I just recommend getting it maybe at a cheaper price because I do think that for the hours I played, $15 is just a little bit pricey in my book. So I recommend picking up Off when it's on sale instead. And hey, the great thing is now you're able to support Mortis Ghost with every purchase. So that's pretty cool. So you can play Off on Steam, Apple, and a Nintendo Switch port was announced, I think, at one point, but I haven't heard any news on it yet. But if it does, that's really great if it's on Nintendo Switch. So what do you guys think of the Off remake? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I saw a lot of negative comments in regards to the soundtrack and the new gameplay ruining the experience, but I'm super curious on what other people have to say in regards to Off's remake. So, as always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any old or new subs would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with links to all of my social media tabs. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something with some like-minded people, I have a fan server link down below. See you next time!